where he says more horrendous abuse was meted out to staff by Hannibal's wife, Aileen.
Shwaiga is not the only one. There is a Sudani man who Aileen burnt him twice. She boiled water and she burnt him from here to down.
He says the foreign staff were targeted the most. A picture is emerging of horrendous abuse at Hannibal Gaddafi's houses. I've been contacted by another nanny who describes Aileen Gaddafi as psychologically sick and a sadist. And this room would seem to bear out her testimony. What kind of family has their own private jail cell at one of their properties? Schweige is now facing months of recuperation and surgery. CNN is working with a number of organisations to ensure she gets the best care available and that she can get home to Ethiopia after her nightmare at the hands of the Gaddafi family. Dan Rivers, CNN, Tripoli.
The United Nations has warned victims of Somalia's famine that the situation in the Horn of Africa will continue to get worse as the rain is not expected until mid-October at best. That means the harvest will not be ready until early next year. The already tough situation is being compounded by general insecurity, militancy and terrorism. We have more in that report.
Moving outside the wire, the safety of a peacekeeping base to battle-scarred Mogadishu. African Union soldiers have pushed Al-Qaeda-linked militant group Al-Shabaab out of the capital.
That backbone now is broken, but alongside that we have had guerrilla tactics time and again, and also terrorism, because these are civilians dressed like you are, and the most challenging aspect is when human beings decide to turn themselves into bombs.
Asymmetrical attacks like IED explosions are on the rise, so peacekeepers are trying to plug the security holes and protect civilians who have fled to the city by the thousands.
2 weeks ago, there was absolutely nothing on the sand dune. Now it's crowded with hundreds of people. They were escaping both drought and fighting, and the conditions are terrible.
What they left was worse. For years, these men grudgingly put up with Al-Shabaab's strict Sharia law.
It says, despite the bad rules or the extreme conditions under Al-Shabaab, at least they had livelihood.
But when the drought hit, Shabaab started taking livestock and food to survive. Now all they can hope for is handouts. Private tragedies happen here every day. I walked for 15 days to escape drought and fighting, says Sarah. She was 9 months pregnant with twins that to escape bandits as they walked. The twins were born last night, she says. One died before dawn. The other died just before we met her. She doesn't have the money to bury her. Dave McKenzie, CNN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
We'll now take our second break. Sports is next. The Gambia will tomorrow take on Namibia in Windhoek in the penultimate round of qualifiers for the 2012 African Nations Cup finals in Gabon and Equatorial Guinea. The Scorpions are sitting second in the three-team group behind leaders Burkina Faso, with Namibia languishing at the bottom with no points. The Gambia will be aiming to crank up the pressure on the Stallions ahead of the crunch final game in Banjul in October between the two sides. Babakar Senghor catch up with the GFA President Sidi Kinte to sound his views on the team's preparation for the Saturday's game.
Well, it's very important for us, and in the sense that it's not going to be easy, because look at the technicalities of it. One, for Namibia, they are playing their home, and secondly, Namibia has already filed an appeal against Burkina Faso, so that makes it's not easy with us, with Namibia there. And the second part of it is not going to be easy with us, with our opponent for our last match, that's Burkina Faso, because they will pray that Gambia to lose their match in Namibia, because they are doing everything possible. So these are the technicalities there. But we know all these things, and we've prepared for it. The boys, they are ready for it, to go and struggle it out there, so that we can get a win tomorrow.
What is the objective in Windhoek in tomorrow's game?
Tomorrow, Jim, the objective there is to win with goals. Then the last match here, we're going to fight that one again.
In the US Open Tennis Championship, where injuries and basic bad form saw a host of big names clash in the opening week, Novak Djokovic is looking every inch the men's top seed. The Serb dismantled his opponent Carlos Berlocq of Argentina in his latest match. We have details in this report.
World number one in ominous form in his second round match against Carlos Berlocq of Argentina. This was a fantastic point in the third set, which really got the crowd on their feet, although Djokovic was already 2 sets up by that stage, and his opponent didn't even win a single game in either of them. They could afford to smile after that rally, because the result was really a foregone conclusion. Djokovic going through to the third round in such convincing fashion that afterwards he was accused of butchery.
Butchery? It's a funny expression. It was best to, first 2 sets were the ideal. I could not play better. I mean, I was getting a lot of balls back. I was ending the points when I needed to. I was making a lot of winners. Serve was okay. Return was great, and I felt fantastic on the court. And there is not much I can say when everything seems fun and seems enjoyable when you're playing such good tennis. I tell you, as a tennis player or as any athlete, when you're playing perfectly, everything seems so good and you're so happy, because that's exactly where you want your game to be, at the top, at the highest possible level.
Before we end this edition of the news, a recap once again of our headline-making stories. Banjulians and the people of the North Bank region have joined the glowing list of regions pledging support for Professor Jammeh ahead of the November 24th presidential race. The Economic Community of West African States has given a supplementary donation amounting to over 3 million drachmas to the Gambia disaster victims. The United Nations is warning that there is no end in sight to the worsening food situation affecting close to 12 million people in the Horn of Africa region. And an Ethiopian national who once worked for Colonel Gaddafi's son Hannibal as a nanny is levying torture allegations against her former boss. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of the news. Thanks for keeping us company, and do have a pleasant weekend.
kon lima def moy
ako abe minkela
dina o honorable Alaji Silla
ako abe honorable Alaji Silla kumandila
pour mu ñoo waxtaana mbolo mi
aning jamaena kacha
ngeen nuyu His Excellency the President
honorable Silla kabiring ala tentu ala tofo ako abe kontondiro folola abe His Excellency the President kontona
Cheikh Professor Dr. Alhaji Yahya AJJ Jammeh
Cheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya AJJ Jammeh
ñu ngeen nuyu Her Excellency the Vice President
ako abe Her Excellency the Vice President fanan kontona
di nuyu honorable minister ci fi teew yépp
ako honorable minister minube bendi ñang abal mu me kontona
di hasal nak suñ ñaari liaison officers yi
ako abe kerkere kontondiro kela di la minister flol la liaison officers
di suma ñaari tanta
ako a binki flol
honorable Fatou Lamine Faye
honorable Fatou Lamine Faye
ak honorable Mariama Sarr Cissé
aning honorable Mariama Sarr Cissé
di nuyu Secretary General and Head of the Civil Service
abe Secretary General kontona Head of the Civil Service